Good morning and welcome to Behind the Screen. I am JM, your host on this show where we sit around and we talk about gaming, role-playing games, board games, card games, war games, miniature games, things that bring us joy, inspire beauty, and are interesting. And so we're going to continue looking at our look at Wrath and Glory. We're going to be looking at a new book today. We're going to be talking about Litanies of the Lost, a series of 4 adventures. But before we get into that, as many of you know, we started a new show on the Iconic Production channel, Beyond the Table, where we talk about the stories of the games that we play. And the first one was John Goff about Night Train, and that went really, really well. And we've got 4 more lined up, possibly all before the end of the year. We're going to be talking with Shane Hensley, um, Rick Mintz of Chaosium, and I have Rob Hainzo on the docket as well. Those are going to be scheduled forthcoming, but on Monday, and it's a weird time. It's going to be in the middle of the day on Monday, but I'll post it on the Discord and we'll post it on social media. I'm going to sit down and talk with Alexander McCrease, who currently has a Kickstarter for his Axe Adventure Conqueror King 2nd Edition. I'm a huge fan of Adventure Conqueror King. In fact, one of the very first episodes I did for the Iconic podcast back when it was Chisnick and I, we interviewed him because I think it was just Axe and the Player's Companion were out. And so he's got a great Kickstarter going on. We'll be talking a lot more about this. I'm going to make a new channel on the Iconic Production Discord server where for Beyond the Table, where people can put questions they would like to have asked about the games we're going to be talking about. So hopefully that'll be on Monday, and then again I'm trying to get 3 more between now and the end of the year, and schedules permitting. But today we're talking about Wrath and Glory. So Litanies of the Lost is a adventure book for Wrath and Glory. It's 141 pages for about $40. So again, great length of book compared to the price. And again, the quality of these books from Cubicle 7 blows away a lot of people's similarly priced or even more expensive books. I love that Cubicle 7 does things with their end papers. So anyway, so this is 4 adventures, and they are all standalone adventures. And I think what's great about these is they allow the GM to get a feeling and a sense for what they can do with Wrath and Glory. One of the things we talked about was how difficult it is narrowing the scope of the game, which is where frameworks really come in. And so this series of adventures is, they're each individual, but they give you some ways to kind of link back through, tie them together into a larger overarching story. Padre, but you're backing the Torg miniature subscription, which is awesome. I think 3 adventures in there. I don't know if all 3 have released, but if they have, let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts on those adventures. I did I don't even remember the titles. One was To Save a Demon, one was The Roots of the Tree of Good and Evil, and then one was set in the Living Land. So I did a Cyber Papacy one, a Tharcold one, and a Living Lands one. So hopefully you enjoyed them. If you've been subscribing to them, I think they should all be out. So one of the other nice things is in the introduction to these adventures, they give you a overview of each of the 4 adventures, and more importantly, they tell you as the GM specifically what kind of adventures these are. So the 4 adventures are Grim Harvest. It is an open-ended investigation. Vow of Silence is a stealth-focused, site-based scenario. Dark Bidding is an investigative chase through the underbelly of a forge world. And Duty Beyond Death is a site-focused scenario about exploring the mechanical bowels of an Adaptus Mechanicus Servitor Manufactorum, which I did practice saying because those are a lot of extra syllables. It's one of the things you'll enjoy about Warhammer 40K. So this adventure really, or this book is really GM focused. It's a series of adventures. It is essentially not a whole lot of player information in this book, but each of the 4 adventures focuses on a different style of gaming. And there's going to be slight spoilers, but I'm going to attempt to keep them high level. So for a GM, the things that I enjoy about this book, first of all, 4 adventures. I would say 2 of them are of exceptional quality, and 2 of them are of above average quality. I think Vow of Silence is a really just spectacularly good adventure with an interesting twist. All of the evidence sort of points one way, and then the rug gets pulled out from under you, and what's actually going on is completely different. Really enjoy like bottle adventures, and that's what Vow of Silence is. The group goes to this monastery on a remote island where strange things have been happening. It reminds me a lot of my favorite Shadows of Esteren adventure, the Monastery of Tuoth. Just, hey, here's the monastery, go investigate what's going on. Hey, Mark, how's it going, sir? So, I think that one's just spectacular, and I really enjoyed Grim Harvest because it involves the Eldar. And who doesn't love the Eldar? My buddy Christopher, because the Eldar constantly just destroy his armies in 40K. So, you get good insight into what the... Oh, you don't like the Eldar, John Doom? Oof. I mean, trying to butter you up because you're GMing Rise of the Rune Lords this Friday, but I don't know how to react to that. Is it just all Eldar, or specifically like the Dark Eldar, Craftworld Eldar? You know, wow, a lot of Eldar hate on my channel today, which I was not expecting. Listen, not every army in 40K can be as enlightened and technologically superior as the Eldar are. So I understand the hate. It's okay. We can take it because, you know, we have Aspect Warriors and Fire Prisms. So there we are. No, so an adventure book like this does several things beyond just providing you with the adventure modules that you get to play through. There's a ton of new monsters and threats, but more importantly, you get to see the game as it's intended to be played by the designers. I love looking at adventures and dissecting them based off what I know about the core rules. And so to get such a smattering of different styles of adventures really leans into the fact of how flexible Wrath and Glory is for bringing the 40K universe to life at your table. So, all right, now we're digressing here. They are cheesy. Yeah, I mean, they give you, I mean, it's fair. It's because we're so old, we know how to use the point system to our advantage, Shandu. It's just the way of the world. My Striking Scorpions and Howling Banshees are there for your Orcs and Nids, as are my Dark Reavers. But it's neither here nor there. You're managing to distract me yet again. So, with Grim Harvest, I'm just going to read through a little bit of the text so you guys can get a feel for what each of the adventures are. I'm not going to spoil them because, again, my hope is that if you are a player and you're going, hey, these adventures sound awesome, let me go out and buy it for my Wrath and Glory GM, and then they will have the adventures to play through. Which, I think we talk a lot about that. I saw a really great post, I think it was from the RPG Club, where it says, listen, there's a lot of discussions going on about AI right now, and how we need to make sure we support the artists in our lives, and we buy character art, and we buy, we support them. And he's like, the one thing that we never bring up is we should support our GMs as well. Like, they're artists, they're helping, and they're helping us by providing a game, but they're also pouring their heart and soul into an adventure for us. So if you can, get everybody in the group to donate $5, and you've got Litanies of the Lost for your GM, and there you go. Wrath and Glory also does a lot of, or Cubicle 7 does a lot of PDF-only adventures for all four of their game lines now. Soulbound, Warhammer Fantasy, Wrath and Glory, and Imperium Maledictum. I got to see the Imperium Maledictum book in person this weekend, and it is beautiful. So if you want something smaller, their adventures are available usually between $3 and $10 on the Cubicle 7 store or on Drive-Thru RPG. It's a great way to just thank your GM for running games for you and give them a little something that you're going to get to enjoy as well. So, Grim Harvest takes place on one of the Agri worlds. There is rumors of monsters in the hills, and it turns out that the Eldar are involved in some way. Won't get really into it, but the way this adventure is set up is there's a hook, and there's a lot of space to cover, and there's a lot of little individual ties. Each person that you encounter, each NPC, has their own thoughts and theories on what's going on, as well as their own interests. And so a crafty GM could take just Grim Harvest and expand it out to probably 4 or 5 other adventures, just based off the factions, the interactions, and that thing. The hooks that the writers give you. We talked a little bit about Vow of Silence. It's a site-based monastery investigation game, and I would actually argue that if you wanted to, this is probably the easiest adventure to turn into a horror adventure and really lean into the cosmic horror, fear of the unknown that 40K can invoke in players. If you run it as written, I think it also does well as sort of a horror comedy based off what's really going on, and I don't want to spoil it, but I do think that John Doom will be happy if he gets to play in Vow of Silence. Dark bidding. Dark bidding involves what seems to start off as a fetch quest, a stasis chamber of the Adeptus Mechanicum, and a bunch of factions are trying to get it. And there's like an auction, there's a bidding war, and then if the stasis cask ever gets opened, all hell breaks loose. So it's sort of this Pulp Fiction briefcase kind of adventure, except you actually get to see what's inside the briefcase, and it's horrific. And then Duty Beyond Death involves trying to survive and explore a manufactorum that is on the fritz. Something has gone wrong. There's an NPC that has caused it, and it's unclear whether they are heretical or just mistaken, and you as the players get to try and navigate that. And again, at the end of every adventure, they give you multiple ways that this adventure could tie into other adventures. So they're not linear. You don't have to run Grim Harvest and then Vow of Silence and Dark Bidding. You could run whichever one you like best, and at the end of that one, it'll tell you, hey, from this adventure, here's how you connect to the other 3 in Litanies of the Lost. So it provides more of a web of how to get through these adventures. So you can run them as one-shots, or you could run them as a short, 4 to 8 session little mini campaign. If you're wanting to try out Wrath and Glory, I'd highly recommend getting Litanies of the Lost and, just starting there. So, John, I will share a story. And this led to JM's rule number 1, my number 1 piece of advice of game mastering, is always say every name that you plan on using in a game out loud. I was running a Burning Wheel game. There was 2, myself and Bob were co-GMing it. It was rival noble houses on opposite sides of a civil war, and that fell apart pretty much quickly because my wife was in charge of one noble house and Bob's wife was in charge of the other noble house, and they went, what if we worked together? What if we weren't on opposite sides? And so suddenly the 2 noble houses were allied. But the group was sneaking into a castle to rescue someone, and as they came out, there was this knight in ensorcelled plate mail armor I had this whole encounter planned where each character was going to have a different role in defeating this knight. Like the mage was going to be able to drain away some of the enchanted aspects of the armor, so that the squire could engage this knight and fight him, while the other two characters were also doing things. I was very, very proud of this adventure. And so I had this script, they were like, "What is your name, Sir Knight?" And I said, his voice rumbles deep within his casque helmet. I think I even had like a little metal cup that I held up to my mouth so that it gave the right metallic ring to it. And I said, "I have no name but duty." I don't actually remember how the fight went, because the players were laughing so hard that all dramatic tension was lost. And I know they beat the knight, but I can't tell you for certain whether they beat the knight the way I had thought in my head, or I was just so frustrated at all of the poop jokes that I just killed the knight off and moved on. It was... yeah. So you have a funny story about comments like that from a Star Wars game that Calvin was running back in college. Padre, I would love to hear that story. And then I will share it with Calvin. We play Overwatch on Sundays, or at least we normally do, so I can reach out and let him know. So that's Litanies of the Lost. It was such a great moment, John Doom. Now later, older JM finds the humor in this story. Young, like hardcore, gonna run the best burning wheel game in the history of man, JM was very upset at his players. So that's Litanies of the Lost. Again, you can get it on DriveThruRPG. I'll post links in the show notes on YouTube. You can pick up the book from Cubicle 7 or off Amazon. Again, $40 for 140 pages worth of adventures. That's far cheaper than kind of the going rate for fantasy adventures. And again, book quality, art quality, paper quality, writing, adventure design, all top notch by the guys at Cubicle 7. So if you ever see this, Cubicle 7, big fan of all of your work. Thank you for putting out quality adventures like this. I will do so, Padre. I will. So that's it for today. We'll be back on Thursday. We're going to be talking about the Forsaken System Player's Guide. I think we've only got 2 or 3 more episodes in our look at Wrath and Glory, and then we'll kind of move on, preparing for Malazan Vent, which is where we're going to look at the Malazan Books of the Fallen over the entirety of November and talk about how we can game in them. So I think what we have left in at least my reviews of products that I currently have, we're going to cover Forsaken System Player's Guide next Thursday. Tuesday, we're going to cover Church of Steel, which is the vehicle supplement. And then next week, Thursday, I'm going to talk about how I would put together a 40K Wrath and Glory game. And that'll bring us to kind of a close on our look at Wrath and Glory. I know they've got the Xenos book coming out. They've got a lot of other things. But for now, we're going to let that kind of set to the side. And get into some other things. I've got some cool reviews that I'd like to do. Talk about Castles of Crusades. The new mythology book from RuneQuest is on the docket. Plus a ton of Savage World stuff that I haven't been able to get to. And I kind of feel like I'm slacking on my Savage World stuff. Speaking of, I will be live on Thursday on the Savage Universe show, because I'm going to talk with Carl of Tabletop Tango. He has been adapting for con games the Dragonlance adventures, and so we're going to talk about how to take your favorite adventure and convert it to Savage Worlds. All right, so let's see here. Padre said he was GMing the game. His wife was playing the Ewok Scout. And the lead who came up in a temple, and there were a bunch of Deveronians worshipping. Malazan Navidad. Ooh, that's... I just read what Padre wrote. I will definitely reach out to Calvin and remind him of this. That's fantastic. About a quarter of the way through book 3. Does that mean... Have you met Boshalane and Corball Broach, which is an entire day on our Malazan Advent calendar for discussing the wonderfulness that is that character, or those characters. So I think what I'm going to kind of do is I'm going to try and do an introduction to Malazan. We're going to do a Genabacchus episode where we talk about only the books that take place on Genabacchus. We're going to talk about the Seven Cities books, which cover only the books on Seven Cities. We're going to cover Lether. So that's 4 of our 8 Malazan episodes. Boshlane, Corbel, Broach, 5. The themes about compassion and power that I want to talk about. And then we'll probably touch on each of the other individual series, just high level, going through on that. Tink has suggested I try and reach out to one of the Malazan guys and see if I couldn't get an interview with them. So I'm going to try and do that. Who knows? The sky's the limit. So, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I am JM. This has been Behind the Screen. Thank you all for joining us, and I will see you all later. Until then, have a good one.